Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Stokes, and this is the real science of the upside down. Imagine the air goes cold, your lights flicker, you hear something moving behind the walls. You turn around and suddenly you're standing in your street. But it's not your street. The houses are rotting, ash-like spores drift through the air. The world is familiar, but twisted, wrong. In Stranger Things, this is called the upside down, a parallel dimension layered directly beside ours, like a dark photocopy of reality. But is this just great sci-fi writing? Or could something like the upside down actually exist according to modern science? Today on the Real Science of Sci-Fi, we're diving into extra dimensions, multiverse theory, mirror matter, and some genuinely weird ideas from theoretical physics to answer one question. Could a parallel dimension really exist next to ours? And if so, how close could it be? So, what do scientists mean by parallel dimension? In Stranger Things, the Upside Down is basically an evil copy of Earth. It's the same town, the same houses, the same school, just decayed, dark, and full of monsters. In science, when we talk about parallel dimensions or parallel universes, we generally mean one of three things. The first, hidden spatial dimensions. String theory, one of the big candidates for a theory of everything, suggests that our universe might have 10, or maybe 11 dimensions in total. We, as humans, experience 3 of space plus 1 of time. All the extra dimensions are thought to be tiny and curled up at incredibly small scales. We're talking distances of around 10 to the minus 35 metres. That's a 1 with 35 zeros after it. Way, way smaller than even a single atom. These curled up dimensions might be real, but invisible, and matter like atoms and light might be stuck inside our familiar three-dimensional space. So the idea of extra dimensions is not just sci-fi, it is there right in high-end physics. The second option, the multiverse. In this option is that our universe is just one bubble in a gigantic cosmic foam. In this multiverse picture, different regions of reality might be completely separate universes, each with its own laws of physics, particles, and histories. Most of these would never interact with us at all. They're not sitting next to Hawkins, Indiana. They're more like entirely separate books on a shelf. And the third, final option, Braneworlds. This is probably the closest thing to the upside down. In some models, our universe is a three-dimensional membrane, or a brane, floating in a higher dimensional space, sometimes called the bulk. Other branes can exist parallel to ours. Each brane can host its own universe with its own galaxies, stars, and possibly life. They might be parallel to ours, extremely close in the extra dimensions, and yet completely unreachable by normal means. Think of 2 sheets of paper stacked together. From the side, they're basically touching, but the people printed on one sheet can never step onto the other. Those 3 options are the scientific picture that most closely matches the idea of the upside down existing right beside us. So, could a parallel world be aligned with ours? In Stranger Things, locations in the upside down line up with locations in our world. The school is where the school should be. The buyer's house is where the buyer's house should be. If you stand in a room in Hawkins, there's a corresponding room in the upside down in exactly the same place. Is that at all realistic? It turns out sort of, but with important caveats. In the Braneworlds model, parallel universes can have very similar large-scale structures if they started with similar conditions. If 2 universes were born from the same kind of initial energy distribution, they might both form galaxies, clusters and filaments in roughly comparable patterns. However, at small scales, things get very chaotic very quickly. Quantum randomness, chaotic weather, geological processes, and evolution all amplify tiny differences. So after even a fraction of a second, the detailed histories of the 2 universes would diverge. Your house, your garden, your coffee mug. That level of one-to-one mapping is wildly unlikely. So, a parallel universe that is roughly similar on a cosmic scale is very plausible. A carbon copy of Hawkins frozen like a screenshot? It's very unlikely. how close could a parallel universe be? Here's where it gets a little wild. In some Braneworld models, another universe could be micrometers away, nanometers away, or effectively just a Planck length away in the extra dimension. That's about 10 to the minus 45 meters. If you shrank yourself down by a factor of 100 billion, that gap would still be tiny. From our point of view, the two universes would occupy the same space, but they'd be separated along an extra dimension that we simply can't move through. You can picture it a bit like this. Our universe is a 2D drawing on a one sheet of paper. The other universe is another 2D drawing on a separate sheet of paper above it. The drawings overlap in position, but not in the third dimension. From the inside, there is no way to jump upwards off the paper, unless you somehow hack the higher dimensional physics. So the idea that the upside down is right beside us is surprisingly close to how some physicists imagine parallel universes. The inaccurate parts are the ease of crossing over, and the fact that it conveniently copies Hawkins down to the last tree. So could you actually open a gate between the two dimensions? In Stranger Things, portals to the upside down appear when enough energy or psychic force is concentrated in one place. Walls tear, floors bulge. Space itself seems to rip like old wallpaper. In physics, if you want to connect two different points in space-time, or even two different universes, the main candidate is a wormhole. A wormhole is like a tunnel through higher dimensions. In general relativity, Einstein's equations do allow solutions that look like wormholes. The problem is that almost all of them collapse instantly and or require exotic matter with negative energy density to stay open. To build a stable, human-sized wormhole, you need a huge amount of energy, probably more than the planet's mass converted to energy. Exotic matter that we have never seen in nature in useful quantities, and insanely advanced control over gravity and quantum fields. So Hawkins National Laboratory is not going to manage that with a concrete bunker and some dodgy wiring. If a future civilization could do it, it would be more like engineering a black hole than drilling a tunnel. Another violent option comes from the brane world cosmology. If two branes collide, the energy released can be enormous. There are even models where a brane collision creates something like a Big Bang. That's obviously not something you want happening in your hometown. So the idea of punching a hole between universes isn't totally forbidden by physics, but doing so would require technology and energy levels that are far beyond us. But what about Eleven's powers, I hear some of you say? In Stranger Things, Eleven opens gates and interacts with the Upside Down using psychic abilities, especially when she's in a sensory deprivation tank. She seems to be able to reach across space and into another dimension using only her mind. Real-world science does not support telekinesis or telepathy, as they are usually portrayed. When people have tried to test psychic phenomena under controlled conditions, the results fall away to pure chance. However, there are some interesting concepts the show leans on indirectly. Quantum entanglement. Particles can become correlated so that measuring one instantly tells you about the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This does not let you send information faster than light, it does not move matter, it doesn't open portals. Some speculative ideas in neuroscience suggest that quantum effects might play a role in consciousness. These ideas are highly controversial and not widely accepted, but they do make good sci-fi fuel. So 11 powers have no solid scientific basis, but they are partially built on top of real quantum weirdness and the long-standing human fascination with minds interacting with reality in deeper ways. If other dimensions exist, could life exist in a parallel dimension? One of the most memorable things about the Upside Down is that it isn't empty. It's full of floating spores, parasitic vines, monstrous predators like the Demogorgon, and vast neural networks controlled by something like the Mind Flayer. Could biology evolve in another universe? If the laws of physics in that universe are similar to ours, then yes. There's no obvious reason life couldn't arise. You'd need stable atoms, chemistry that can form complex molecules, some kind of solvent like water or something else, sources of energy and plenty of time. Here's where we start to get a little more exotic. Some physicists have proposed the idea of mirror matter, a hidden copy of our particle physics where every particle has a mirror partner. Mirror matter would interact with our matter mostly through gravity, but not through light or electromagnetism. This means that mirror atoms could form mirror stars and planets. Mirror chemistry could form mirror life. And we never know, because it would be invisible to our telescopes. That's a real research topic in actual science, not just a sci-fi writer's fantasy. If a mirror matter dimension next to ours, or mixed very weakly with ours, it could have an entire hidden biosphere that we can only detect through very subtle gravitational effects. The Upside Down didn't quite work like that. Its biology interacts far too strongly with our world. But the basic idea of a hidden living sector is not totally crazy scientifically. In the show, the Upside Down seems to be stuck in the past, specifically around November 1983. Their calendars don't update. Mixtapes are still in their players, and it's like someone took a snapshot of Hawkins and then corrupted it. Could a whole region of reality be frozen in time? In Einstein's general relativity, time can pass at different rates depending on gravity and motion. Near a black hole, time can slow down dramatically compared to faraway regions. However, to freeze time almost completely, you would need gravitational fields so intense that anything nearby would be ripped apart. You couldn't have breathable air, human-scale buildings, or normal gravity, and also nearly freeze time. There are also speculative ideas where parts of space-time get trapped in different vacuum states with different energy levels, which could change how time flows or how quickly structures evolve. But turning that into a perfect, shabby copy of your town stuck at one date would take us well beyond our current science. A more plausible explanation for the frozen Upside Down would be narrative, not scientific. It's a story device that gives the place a haunted, preserved in amber feeling. Scientifically, it doesn't have a clean explanation at all. In later seasons of Stranger Things, the Upside Down seems to invade our world. Vines snake through the walls, spores drift into the air, and whole regions begin to look corrupted. If the two universes, or branes, came into direct contact, would one spread into the other like mold? Probably not in a biological sense. Instead, you'd expect something much more explosive and much less survivable. If two regions of space-time with different vacuum energies collide, theoretical models suggest that a boundary wall could form. Energy could be released in enormous quantities, and one vacuum state might convert the other in a kind of phase transition. That's not vines through wallpaper, that's more like a cosmic, universe-scale disaster. The show's creeping horror is far more visually satisfying than the real physics, which would look more like everything gets destroyed very quickly. So, could an upside-down dimension really exist? Time for a verdict. Parallel dimensions, these are absolutely on the table in modern physics. String theory, M-theory, Braneworlds, multiverse models all naturally give us extra dimensions or multiple universes. Could it be right next to us? That's entirely possible that a parallel universe could be separated from us by only a tiny distance in a higher dimensional direction. From our perspective, it would occupy the same physical space. Could it have life? If the laws of physics and chemistry are similar, then absolutely life could emerge. If there is a hidden mirror matter sector, it might even host its own ecosystems. Could it be a decayed one-to-one copy of Hawkins? That's where the show switches from science-inspired to pure fiction. The odds of a parallel universe independently producing the same people, buildings, and events are near zero. Could we open a gate from a small lab with our current understanding of physics? No. You'd need control over space-time itself, exotic matter, and energies closer to astrophysical events than anything human technology could possibly provide. So the Upside Down, as shown on screen, is not scientifically realistic, but the core idea that there might be unseen dimensions or even entire hidden universes right next to ours is a serious topic in theoretical physics. If parallel dimensions exist, they're probably not full of demogorgons or corrupted versions of your house. They're more likely to be lifeless or entirely alien, or so weakly connected to us that we never even know they were there. But the fact that modern physics allows the possibility at all is in some ways more unsettling than the Upside Down itself, because it means that reality, even in its most sober mathematical form, is stranger than almost anything we can put on TV. If you enjoyed this journey into the real science behind Stranger Things, then hit subscribe and let me know in the comments. What sci-fi world, monster or technology should I pull apart next on The Real Science of Sci-Fi?